everyone. So, I wanted to make a training on how to keep your coaching students more engaged because everyone knows this problem that every coach at least knows the problem that you want to help a student, you want to help a person that comes to you, and you give them knowledge, you give them ideas, you give them some guidelines, and they just don't do that. And you don't understand why. And I think a lot of coaches accept it as part of reality that some people will drop out and never do their homework, never do the tasks. So I'm making this training obviously for coaches, but I'm also making this training for people who go through coaching because I want everyone to understand the psychology behind it and how it works. I don't have any behind the scenes tricks. I don't have any ways to kind of influence you and make my students do things without them being aware of it. I'm always trying to be as transparent as I can about what I am doing, why I am doing it, and why it works. I really believe that when you understand why what you do works, it works better for you. So I need to start with a little bit of a backstory because I think there are two kinds of coaches. Probably more, but this is kind of general division. People who are more reliant on a system and people who are more reliant on themselves and their own life experience. I am obviously of the second kind, and it's important to explain this because my approach comes from me trying to understand certain things and not just learning some technique or going through some course and saying, okay, I will apply this technique to other people. I'm actually quite against trying to apply any technique to anyone because, as you will see, my approach relies on really understanding the people that you work with. So I started I started teaching coding about 5 years ago. I was out of job. I left the tech industry after about 8 years, and I realized I really hated the 9 to 5. I really hated my job, and I needed a big change in life. And I left my country. I traveled for a bit. I was kind of looking for myself. At some point, the money started to run out, and I needed to find some way to make more money. I didn't want to go back to the office, and somebody recommended me that I start teaching through this website. I don't want to share its name because I think it's not a good place to work in, but it was my first step to get to where I am. And my first question when people reached out to me for help in my head, not asking them, was why can't you Google it? Like, why do you need me to explain you those things when you can just read them? And I know a lot of people would just, okay, somebody asked me a question, I will just explain it to them. But in my head, I always try to figure out like what prevents people to understand and do it on their own. I think my approach was always to try to make everything on my own and try to do this my way. And it always baffled me when I saw people having some kind of block and not relying on themselves, not knowing how to move forward. So every time somebody would come to me with a question, I would try to figure out what prevented that person from actually understand this on their own. I was kind of looking one level deeper than the question that they asked me. And this question, why can't they understand it on their own, was pretty much the biggest guideline for everything I've built in my coaching, for everything that shaped my approach the way it is. And it's probably not for everyone because I know what I'm doing is a little bit radical. And I realize that also a lot of people that see my posts on LinkedIn that have introduction calls with me, it takes them quite a while to understand what I'm offering because this is not straightforward. This is not like 5 steps to get into this, 5 steps to do that, a bulletproof program for you to get this if you only follow these steps. Like the steps were never something that I concerned myself with. And again, this comes back to me as a person because I was always um, more of a short-term thinker. I have a problem. How do I solve it in the most efficient way, in the quickest way possible? How do I stay independent doing that thing rather than trying to plan something for too long, trying to come up with steps or trying to learn some steps that will allow me, if I follow them, I will get to my end result. I always wanted to understand like why, what's the concept behind it, and then out of the concept build my own steps. So I think the core idea behind it, like the most foundational thing, and now I will go through this list that I'm showing you, is that nobody knows what's best for you. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, obviously there is a body of knowledge that you need to learn. There are some basic skills that you have to go through, and only then you can do your own thing. But if you want to do something new, if you just want a job, if you just want to be a doctor, if you just want to be a lawyer and just do a job, you don't need me. I'm not here. I don't think I can help and offer much value for people who just want the steps and just want the end result. Like, I'm not here for that. I'm here for people who want to take some kind of knowledge. In my case, it's coding knowledge and achieve their own goals to end up in the place in life where they want to be. This obviously does not apply only to coding, this can apply to many different things, but since I have all the coding background, this is kind of the niche that I got into. So the first thing that I ask people is, what do you want? What is the end result that you want out of it? Because I have a perfect example. Maybe I'll share a screenshot when I'm editing the video later of me posting something technical on LinkedIn, and there was some woman that said, "But why? What is the definition of getting blocked? What is the definition of this and that?" And I asked her, "Well, why are you asking me? I need to understand what are you trying to achieve to give you any kind of meaningful answer, because debating in abstract terms to me seems like absolutely useless. Because if you don't have a specific goal, a specific thing that you're trying to solve, um, I can't help you because I don't know how to figure out from this, how to go backwards and figure out, well, what is blocking you to get there." And her answer was, "Well, I'm here to get a job, obviously, like everyone." And I think that this is the antithesis of what I'm trying to show. And I told her, like, I can't guess it. I cannot figure out your own goals. The fact that you are here doesn't mean I can read your mind and know what is it that you're passionate about. What kind of job do you want? What are your skills? What other interests you might have? What you're good at? What you're not good at? So there are a lot of factors that come into helping a person to get to where they want to be. Now, the next thing is that this is the next step. So the person defines what they want, and then what happens? They look on the outside and they see people doing something that looks similar to what they want to be doing, and they say, "Oh, they must be doing something right. I should be following these people." And what happens is people build up expectations in their head. They see somebody who is a coder, who writes a lot of code, who has like a million commits a day on GitHub, I don't know, doing a lot of stuff, and they say, well, if I'm not measuring up for whatever reason to how that person who I hold in high regard is, then I must be a failure, then I suck, that I can't achieve my goals. And this thought is quite insidious because we all think that we need to get better, we need to somehow measure our progress, we need to have standards for what better is. And we look to the outside and we see people and we say, okay, we want to be I want to be like Elon Musk. I want to be like Michael Jordan. I want to be like this or that. But what most people don't realize is that in 95% of the cases, you have a measuring stick. And all you do with this stick is beat yourself up with. That is the only thing that this stick that you have in your head that you think is good for you, this is what you're doing with it. You're beating yourself up because you're making expectations that have nothing to do with you as a person. Yeah, they might be reasonable. They might be, it sounds like common wisdom, aspire to be something, something. But if you don't know yourself and if you don't know your own strength and if you're not looking what is the next step for you and you're looking what is the 500 steps ahead, this amazing person that I put on a pedestal, where they are, then you're not helping yourself in any way. And one of the most common scenarios in my coaching is a person comes to me and said, I wanted to do a thing. I wanted to code something, I wanted to build something, and I gave it 2 days. It didn't work out, so I realized it's impossible and that I'm a failure. Well, they don't use these words, but this is the bottom line, and I quit. And I asked them, like, who told you that this particular thing should take 2 days? Most of them are a little bit shocked by this question. I saw on YouTube, I saw here, my aunt told me this and that. And then I just tell them, well, guys, this is not realistic. Nobody told you that you're supposed to do this thing in 2 days. Why do you have this idea in your head? And this is how these ideas become very insidious because you think that you're using some kind of common sense, but you're not. Um, you're taking some kind of insecurity that lives inside of you and you're giving it a weapon. So rather than fueling your own insecurity about not measuring up to someone, just measure up for what you want to do tomorrow. That's it. That is literally it. Okay, next thing is that you will always face negative emotions. This is again one level deeper, and one of the illusions and one of the expectations is that when you see successful people from the outside, you are sure that they are having fun and everything is smooth and everything is nice for them because they're so cool and successful and they do stuff. And you don't realize that it's again an illusion. It's again you're taking this measuring stick and saying, oh, if I'm not having fun, if I'm feeling stuck, if I'm feeling that this makes me feel stupid, depressed, unhappy. Well, unhappy is kind of a general term, but let's say miserable in the moment, then something must be wrong. And the truth is that when you start doing something new that you haven't done before, and you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you will face negative emotions. You always will. It's not, it's There is a reason you haven't stepped outside of the place you call comfort zone, because in the comfort zone is where you don't feel and you don't get triggered by those negative emotions. It's only when you start doing something new that you didn't think you can do, you start to get triggered by negative emotions. Because let's say you're 30 years old, you never tried your hand at coding, you know the things you are good at, and then you start coding, and then you realize it's hard, you realize you get stuck, you realize you lack knowledge. It will immediately make you feel like, what am I doing? I'm not good at this, regardless if you have any talent. Because I saw people with amazing talent that beat themselves up with this measuring stick that I'm not fast enough, and then they feel bad and they say, well, it shouldn't feel like this, I shouldn't feel that it sucks so much. And I'm sorry to burst this bubble, it will suck. It will suck for a good period of time, and there is no way around it. You have to accept those feelings. The next point, your emotions are your compass, is a little bit of a side note, I would say, because people many times rely on something feeling good being good and something feeling bad being bad. And that is actually not at all a good way to look at it because heroin probably feels great in the moment. I've never done it, so I wouldn't know. But I don't know, alcohol, when you are almost blackout drunk and having fun with your friends, yeah, it feels great. Is it good for you? Probably not. Maybe for one night, but not as a continuous thing. And facing hard challenges, facing your insecurities is doesn't feel good. Is it good for you? Yes, it is great for you because you learn to manage those emotions, you learn to handle them, and you're growing. You're stepping outside of your comfort zone. The next point is basically why I have so far, in the last year, let's say, zero slacking rate. Until last year, that some of these concepts really came together for me. I had students just disappearing, ghosting me, sometimes not doing the work, and I wasn't sure why it's like this. Right now, all the students that pay me money, they don't slack. Nobody. Literally 0%. And I attribute it to the fact that I'm trying to figure out what works for each one of them. I don't try to make them follow any pre-made system. I don't have any 5 steps for them, or 10 steps, or 100 steps. We figure out together what is their next step. I don't assume that I know anything better for them because even if I don't have specific knowledge, even if they don't have specific knowledge, there is very little knowledge, especially in this sphere, that is not available for free on the internet. It's never about the knowledge, it's never about the technical stuff, it's never about the the thing itself. Dr. Phil has this saying, you don't solve money problems with money. It's the same, you don't solve code problems with code. You don't sell, you can apply it pretty much for every technical aspect of life, how you manage money, code, even relationships, even everything. You need to take it one step back. So when I start working with someone, I ask them a lot of questions. What do you want to do? What are your goals? What are you passionate about? Um, I try while working with them to figure out how they think, how they approach certain concepts, how they conceptualize those things. And I keep asking myself questions like I have genuine curiosity for people, for why they do the things they do, uh how they experience things from the inside. And this may sound a little bit esoteric, but well, I have some, let's say, woo-woo interests, and one of them is human design. I was digging into human design for like 4 months. I think I did like the equivalent of 2 academic courses on the subject, just watching YouTube videos and reading and all that. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically a branch of astrology that is much more structured, kind of modernized, based on the few different systems. But the bottom line of all of this entire system is to say that people are extremely different. The way we think is different. The way we feel emotions is different. There are so many differences in us as people, and this is why no general advice can help people. Get up at 5 a.m. I know people who are successful who get up at noon. Do cold baths. Do this. Do that. All kind of advice, and I see this especially on Twitter. I think a lot of these influencer coach gurus, they love making this list. 10 things that every young man or every woman should have done by the age of 30, or should this, or should this. And I look at those and I just want to stab myself in the eye with a fork. It's so cringe to me because people are extremely different from one another. If you are not curious about people, if you just want to use a system and apply to them, don't work with people. Just make an offline course that people buy and watch. Sorry, not offline, like a pre-recorded course, and move on. Work with people if you're curious about working with people, if you are curious to figure out how you can help them. Because the moment you do, you realize that there are no solutions that work for everyone. All the solutions are very, very different. They are very personalized. And even I'm launching now the second cohort of the Get Hired program. And I joke when I talk to people that sign up that it's a bit of a Trojan horse because I say, okay, there is a program at the end of which you will get hired. But it's the complete opposite of every program that you have out there because I don't give you 10 steps to do that. I give you things to do, but you know all those things even without me. You can find out the things that you have to do everywhere for free. You don't need me for that. I am here to figure out what is blocking you from doing them continuously and getting the results in those things. So in a way, most of it boils down to curiosity, to trying to figure out how people can be better at what they want to be better with the tools that they have. Um, I don't think I have anything to add to it. So already 25 minutes in, I hoped it would be shorter, but I hope this helps you. Feel free to leave any feedback, to reach out to me. If you have questions, if you are coaches, or if you want to get hired in tech, also, because this is the program that I'm launching right now. It may not be the program that I will do half a year from now, but this is always changes. For me, every time I discover something from working with people, my whole approach shifts a little bit. So what I did half a year ago and what I did 2 years ago looks absolutely nothing like what I'm doing today. So who knows what I'll be doing half a year from now. Um, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later.